We are continuing today in the fourth chapter of Mesillas Yesharim. Today's section, Friday, the 18th day of Tishrei, October 13th. The Ramchal goes on and he says, Od Amru, Usvivav Nishara Ma'od, Malamech HaKadosh Baruch Medaktik im Chasidov Kichot HaSayra. So here, remember again, the Ramchal is continuing on the theme that he began in yesterday's shir, namely the idea that there's an accounting for every action. There's an accounting and there's a responsibility and a liability sometimes for every single action. And the greater a person is, the more specific or the more particular HaKadosh Baruch Hu is with their actions. He quotes over here the pasuk in Tehillim, Usevivav Nisara Me'od, and the Gemara Darshins Malamisha HaKadosh Baruch Hu Medaktik im Chasidov Kichot HaSayra teaches us that Hashem is medaktek, Hashem is meticulous with the actions of His loved ones or of His pious ones, literally like a hair's breadth, meaning something that we just mentioned before. The more pious one is, the more HaKadosh Baruch Hu holds them accountable and for their actions. And by the way, a person might think to themselves, well, if that's the case, what's the point of being pious, right? If after all, again, it only comes with a greater level of divine scrutiny. So remember, again, you could think about this in terms of the mashal of a child. When a parent has a 1-year-old, parent is blessed with a 1-year-old, so if the 1-year-old throws food on the floor, so the truth is, no one gets angry at that, right? I might get annoyed, but Lamaisa, it's a baby. If my 10-year-old throws food on the floor, I'm upset. Why? Because I expect more. You see, when you hold someone to a higher standard, that is the greatest vote of confidence, because what you're saying is, I believe in you. And more specifically, I believe that you are capable of better behavior. So tzaddikim have demonstrated an incredible spiritual prowess. And as such, they are held to a higher level. Avram, for example, Avram Avinu was beloved to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Ad shehichsiv alav Avraham ohavi. Hashem calls Avram my beloved Avraham. Lo palat min adem mipnei dvarim kalim shelo diktek b'hem. Yet even Avram is held accountable because of certain small mistakes. Al shamar bama eda amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu chayecha. So again, Avram Avinu asks, how will I know that my children will inherit the land of Israel? And Hashem says, as a result of that question, your children are going to be slaves in Egypt. Now, the truth is, there's much more to that discussion, and there's much more to understanding what exactly the connection between those two things are, and why such severity in the divine response. But the point that the Ramchal is trying to make here is that the greater one is, the greater the expectations are of that individual. But again, expectations means that someone believes in you. Going back to our mashal, I have expectations of my 10-year-old because I believe that he or she is capable of eating as a mensch. I don't have expectations of my 1-year-old. So the expectations come because you believe in someone, but with heightened expectations also comes heightened responsibilities. Al shekaras b'sim amimelech below tzivuyev shamakom amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu chayecha shani masha b'simchas benecha shiva doros. Avram Avinu was held accountable for making a treaty with Avimelech. He had no right to make a treaty, the Gemara Chazal tell us, and therefore ultimately again, Kabbalah Satorah, Sinaitic revelation, is delayed for 7 generations. Yaakov HaShechara Apal B'Rachel. Yaakov Avinu gets upset with Rachel. Sh'amar L'Havali Banim. Amru Memedrash Zelo Shalom. Amar LaKadosh Baruch Hu Kach Onimes HaMeukos. Chayecha Shebanecha Omnim Lifnei Bina. So again, another interesting story here. Rachel Imenu is barren, and she comes to Yaakov in a broken way, and she says, "Give me children." And Yaakov responds to her very sharply. And he says, Hatachas Elokimani, do you think I'm God? I'm withholding in orders. You're saying, give me, like it's mine to give. And he answered her in a very sharp way. And the Gemara, the Medrash, says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to Yaakov, is that how you speak to a barren woman? Is that how you speak to a person in pain? It could be Rachel wasn't talking appropriately, but sometimes you have to recognize that when people say certain things, it's not coming from an informed intellectual stance, but it's coming from a place of pain. So meet people where they are in terms of that pain. And as a result, the punishment was that Yaakov's children from Leah would bow down to Yaakov's children from Rachel. ולפי שנוסן אז דינו, בתי וגדול שיקחה עשיו, אף על פי שכוונתו הייתה ועד לטובה, אך לפי שמונה חסד מאחיו, Amru b'medrash, Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu lemasmir re'eu chesed, lo bikashta la'asiyah derech heter, harihini says derech iser. A very strong example as well. When Yaakov met Esav after decades of being separate from each other, he hid Dinah. He did not want Esav to see Dinah, as Dinah was very beautiful, and Yaakov was concerned that Esav would want Dinah, so he hid her in a box. Meanwhile, Chazal say, and what would have been so bad with that shidduch? Perhaps Dinah would have been successful in bringing Esav back and allowing to be Chazer b'tshuva, but because you withheld your daughter from your brother, ultimately she was taken and violated by Shechem. So once again, I want to caution that understanding the connection between some of these things is a little bit hard, and the truth is that's not the point of our limud today. The point that the Ramchal is trying to make is how what would appear to be seemingly minor infractions and things that maybe are not even infractions, yet the righteous are held accountable because they are held to a higher standard. Yosef, so amazing. Yosef, when he's in jail, he says to the butler, when you get out of jail, remember me. Yosef put his faith in a person instead of putting his complete faith in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and as such he's punished with another 2 years of incarceration. Yosef Atzmo, al shechanat es aviv b'li rishuso shal makom, o lefi sheshama avdecha aviv v'shasak, lemarkidis lemeis lifnei echav. Yosef predeceased his brothers, even though he was younger than most of them. Why? Either because he embalmed his father without Hashem's permission, or he allowed his brothers to constantly refer to Yaakov as your servant Yaakov. This was before he revealed his identity. Either way, the point over here is he took certain liberties with the dignity of his father. Therefore, again, he's punished. David, Lefi shekar divrei Torah zmiros, ne'anash al shenichshal b'divrei uza v'nis arbeva simchaso. David called Torah zmiros. He called Torah a beautiful song. Torah is not a song. Torah is Torah. Torah is the daughter of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and as such, he's punished again with the episode of Uzzah. Michal, lefi shochicha as David b'ma sherakar b'chutz lifnei Aaron, nensha shelo haya lavlad ela b'mosa. Michal rebuked David HaMelech that he danced in front of the Aron. She made fun of him, that you're demeaning yourself. Meanwhile, David HaMelech was dancing in front of the Torah, and ultimately, again, she was punished by remaining barren. Chizkiyo, lefi shehera es sare el sare melech Bavel, as based nuchochos, nigza abon of Leos sarisa mehechal melech Bavel. Chizkiyo, he went ahead and he showed the treasures of Yerushalayim, of the Beis HaMikdash, to the people of Bavel. To the rulers of Babel. As a result, he was punished that his children, his offspring, served as attendants to the Babylonian kings. And he's verabim ke'ele ma'od. And the section ends. There are many other examples of this. So like I said, each of these examples warrants a shiur by itself in terms of understanding kind of like the quid pro quo involved in the infraction versus the punishment. But that's not our purpose. Our purpose is to recognize that every action has a reaction and everything we do has a result. And remember, this is all still part of Zihirus. So remember, again, we're trying to focus on the idea, how does Zihirus come about? How does a person live life in an attentive fashion, with cognition, with forethought, by recognizing that everything I do has an action, has a reaction. Everything I do has a consequence. Everything I do has a result. And if even for great people, relatively minor infractions, small slips, can carry with them such significant repercussions, alachas kama v'kama, all the more so for the rest of us as well, how much we have to be vigilant with every step we take and everything we do. We'll stop over here for today. Wishing everyone a wonderful day and a good night.